Hello, and welcome to my benchmark presentation on discrimination in behavioral health care and special groups. Um, I'm going to be looking at autistic individuals and Hasidic Jews for my presentation. Um, although these groups are very different, they both face systematic barriers, harmful stereotypes, and unequal treatment in public systems, including education, healthcare, community services. I feel like this comparison helps highlight how discrimination can take many forms while still producing similar harms. I'll highlight two specific discrimination incidents from the past 5 years. The first involves a 2022 Department of Justice settlement with a school district that restrained and secluded autistic students at disproportionately high rates. The second involves a 2023 case in New York where a Hasidic Jewish family was denied housing access based on their religious appearance. The key is understanding not only what happened, but also what occurred afterward and how these events connect to behavioral health practice. The key is recognizing how discrimination shapes mental health outcome. Identifying what behavioral workers must learn to avoid will help us to avoid repeating those harms. I feel these cases clearly show why multicultural, disability affirming, and culturally humble training is essential. So let's look at case one. Just kind of a brief overview. It was 2022 investigation into the Frederick County Public Schools in Maryland. Autistic students were illegally restrained and secluded. And this really hits home for me. As a when I was in public school as a kid, I was undiagnosed autistic, and I was actually secluded by one of my teachers, um, put into an isolation room. Um, there were hundreds of incidents documented, and it's a violation of ADA Section 504. Following the DOJ findings, Frederick County Public Schools entered a legally binding settlement agreement. The district was required to eliminate the use of seclusion entirely and sharply limit restraint to situations involving imminent danger. Staff have to receive training in autism, trauma-informed practices, and positive behavioral interventions. I feel this shift represents meaningful progress. This district also had to redesign its behavioral support systems, improving individual education plans, and create oversight mechanisms to prevent future violations. The DOJ continues to monitor the compliance. The key is that federal intervention forced the district to adopt disability competent practices. Now we'll look at the case number two, discrimination against Hasidic Jews. In 2023, New York State Division of Human Rights investigated a housing discrimination complaint filed by a Hasidic Jewish family. The landlord explicitly stated that he did not want Hasidic tenants, referencing the family's religious clothing and appearance. I feel this is a stark example of overt religious discrimination. This incident occurred during a period of sharply rising anti Semitic harassment in the United States, including verbal assaults, vandalism of synagogues, and targeted harassment of visibly Orthodox Jews. Hasidic communities are particularly vulnerable because their dress makes them easily identifiable. After reviewing the evidence, the New York State Division of Human Rights ruled that the landlord had engaged in unlawful religious discrimination. The landlord was ordered to pay damages, participate in anti-discrimination training, and revise rental practices to comply with fair housing laws. I feel this ruling sends a strong message about accountability. One of the things that we need to keep in mind, though, is that legal remedies alone do not erase emotional and psychological impact of discrimination. And we need to, especially in the behavioral health care community, be extra aware and make sure that as mental health care providers, that we do not cause mental health harm. Autistic individuals frequently encounter prejudice in behavioral health settings. Clinicians may misinterpret monotone speech, lack of eye contact. I know that I haven't been maintaining eye contact with the camera in this, and I kind of get that. Sensory distress or oppositional behavior as a lack of engagement. These misunderstandings can deeply harm rapport. Some providers still rely on outdated models that frame autism as something to be fixed, rather than understanding it as a neurotype with strengths and challenges. Another barrier can be a lack of sensory accommodations. Bright lights, strong smells, noisy waiting rooms can all be overwhelming for an autistic client. The key is adopting a neurodiversity affirming approach. I know I particularly am interested in working with couples that are of mixed neurology, is what I would call it, where one is neurotypical and another is neurodiverse, and in seeking to work with that group, I'm obviously going to need to be mindful of accommodations for autistic and ADHD clients, and making sure that they feel welcome and seen. Hasidic Jewish clients may face prejudice in behavioral health settings when providers lack cultural knowledge or hold stereotypes about Orthodox Judaism. Misunderstanding religious practices, gender norms, modesty requirements can lead to unintentional disrespect. I think it's important to when we accept a client from a special group, that we review the needs of that group and educate ourselves so that we can provide the best care, and we can be culturally humble and learn about their practices and customs. And I think a great way to do that, in addition to outside research, is to just ask. Admit, hey, I'm not as familiar as I'd like to be with your culture, with your religious customs. Can you educate me? These two cases highlight essential training needs for behavioral health workers, from autism to the Hasidic Jewish case. It all comes down to understanding and being compassionate. Those are big keys in that. Here's a look at the references I used, and thank you for your time.